Yes, I will record. Or you're recording. Okay.
How do I share content here? Oh, share screen. Okay. I don't want to share everything. That's not all my stuff. What is this? Microsoft Edge. That's not what I want to share. Show all windows. Let's see. Trying to find the video. Okay. Advanced. Okay. This is interesting. Have you shared a video before?
You should be able to share anything you want. Try sharing your screen, and then I'll see whatever you see.
I am. It's not coming up as an
going
option.
through.
To share.
Let me see.
Sorry that I disappeared there for a moment, but Monica is on and all set.
Hi, Monica. Maybe what's my screen for sharing video clip? It's like the app that the video is on isn't coming up. That's not what I wanted. Let's see. I'll try that again. Can give me a headache. Kara, do you have your video handy?
I believe I do.
I might need you to give it a try because
Okay.
it doesn't seem to want to even be an option for me.
All right. Let's see.
And that doesn't make any
Alyssa,
sense.
can you share like something else on your screen just so we can see if you're able to share?
Yeah.
Do you want me to try it right now?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. I'm gonna
Yeah.
give this a test.
Okay, so yours
Okay.
works. It doesn't work.
Are you
for
able
me.
to see it? Okay. Let me see if the sound comes through as well. So I clicked share sound, and now I'm gonna hit play.
Hello, everyone. My name is Karen Napolitano.
That goes through?
Works.
Okay.
Yep.
Right.
It's
Yeah,
a little
this
on
is
the
why we
loud
have
side, just
backups
FYI.
on backups.
It's a little on the loud side.
Yeah, just a little bit. Yeah.
Okay. I think I'll try turning it down and let's just see what that
It might
does.
be my volume. So
Let's see.
I'm the Education and Outreach Coordinator for Sims Municipal Recycling, and I'll be taking you on a virtual.
that's great. Perfect. Yeah, looks great.
That's great. Okay, perfect. So I'm gonna have you stop sharing your.
Kara, when you share the videos, you might just want to click that little icon in the lower right so that it goes full screen.
Full. Will do.
Yeah.
Will do.
Okay, so I just let Tara in. Hi, Tara. We're gonna just practice sharing screens. So Corinna's gonna make you a host.
Great. Yeah.
Hi,
Hi, Tara. I don't know if you
doing?
remember me. We
Sure.
do. Yeah. Good to see you. I was actually chatting with Lisa the other day since we're buddy, and I was mentioning that you were going to be in this event.
Oh, great. Which Lisa?
Lisa Futterman.
Okay, yeah,
from
that's
WBI.
Yeah.
Yeah. She moved out to Beacon. I don't know if you've been in touch with her.
I already thought she was living up there, so maybe I did know that.
Oh, okay. Yeah. She moved, when was it? In December, I think, something like
Okay.
that. Yeah.
Nice.
Okay. So another 5 minutes and then I'll start letting them in.
Did you want me to share my screen as a test?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Good.
That would be great.
I had trouble moving from one slide to the next when it was in full screen earlier. So I think I figured it out. Let's see. But you can let me know if this works. Okay, let's see. So
A little blurry. Oh, okay, it's better. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So I'm changing this slide now. Tell me if you see the next.
Nope.
Yeah.
No.
Does anyone know how to fix that?
What are you using? This is a
in-
PDF?
Yeah, it's just a PDF in Acrobat. And when I go from one slide to the next, it doesn't change on full
Yeah.
screen.
Do you have it in a PowerPoint or?
I do. Yeah. Do you want me
Yeah, try it with PowerPoint. It could be like the control settings or something like that.
Okay, give me one sec. I have it in a. Oh wait, I'll stop sharing. It's in a Keynote. Let's see if that works. If not, I'll just do it.
I have it so I can see if it works for me too. I have it in a PDF. So let's try you first. Oh, did we lose Tara completely?
Yeah, I don't see her on here.
No.
Maybe she accidentally closed the Zoom window.
I love tech. Michaela knows all about these issues.
You know,
Yeah.
it's like the week. It's apparently the week.
Literally, like I had a presentation last week, worked fine. Neil had a presentation the week before, worked fine. Michaela had a presentation this week on tech, ironically, and everything did not work. Like it was fell apart.
I just appreciated it wasn't only my multiple thumbs, you know, the guys who run a machine learning startup company, which may be scary, but nonetheless, they were having, I couldn't believe their bandwidth was like the worst. So
bad. Okay.
That was too much for Zoom to handle. Sorry.
We were like, oh no, where did she go?
Yeah, I don't know. The weather's been weird, so it's been going off and on the last few days. But
do you want me to try to share, or are you gonna?
Oh wait, I don't have. I need to enable sharing.
Oh, I gotta give you co-host one sec.
Host again.
Let me try one more time, and then if not, I'll have you share.
Okay, you should be good.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And I should just be able to play it, right?
Yep.
Okay. So now I'm going. Oops. Oh wait, now I can't even see my. No.
Not working.
Are you using your keyboard or your mouse to advance?
Yeah, my mouse is. My mouse is off. Hang on, let me try that.
Because I work off an Apple too, and sometimes it's funky with the controls when I'm advancing
Yeah,
slides.
I can't see my mouse right now on the screen.
Okay, so let me try. Let me have you stop sharing your screen, and I'll try to share mine and make sure it works.
Okay, right now I've got the mouse. Yeah, I can't. When I do that, I can't see the mouse. which is weird.
Interesting.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna try to share and just make sure it works, and then we'll let them in.
Or worst case, I can share the full screen PDF, not full screen PDF, but like the view only PDF.
So what do you see when I do this?
I can see all this,
Yeah, it's like your whole screen, computer screen.
You can see my whole computer screen, not just this.
Well,
this.
Yeah, I see like the
browser.
tabs and stuff you have.
Okay, yeah, I'm trying to close these. It doesn't want to cooperate with me right now.
oh, because you're
Okay,
viewing from the drive.
but you
can scroll down though, and we're seeing.
Yeah,
you
that
scroll
works.
down.
So okay, so let's do it like this then, and then
think
I'll
it's
just tell me when to.
Is it not better if I share the PDF screen, but just have that open? Or is it the same when I share? Hang on, let me try again.
Okay. Do you want to let them know we're just like a few minutes behind?
Yeah, I've been yeah,
Okay.
I'm just about to do that.
So what do you see when I do this?
I see this screen. Let's see if you can scroll on it. Yep, that works.
Yeah, and this way it's full screen and there's no,
Yeah,
you
that
have to
looks
do the
good.
next slide. Okay, good. So we'll just
Okay,
do that then.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Okay. So you're gonna speak to them first when you let them in, Corinne.
Yeah, let me just do a quick welcome, and then I'm going to pass it on to you, Alyssa, and you run with it. Okay. Okay.
Do you want to give them like a few more minutes or start?
Yeah, I'm going to let these guys in, and then we'll wait just a couple more minutes.
Okay.
You know, sometimes folks come in like 15, 20 minutes past the start time, so. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. We're going to be starting in just a few minutes. Just so we're all able to hear each other today. If you guys could just keep yourselves on mute throughout the event, unless we get to any point where we say you can unmute to ask a question or something like that. But just so we don't have any background noise, we just ask that you keep yourselves on mute. Just so you guys know, I posted an attendance form in the chat. So you'll see the link in there. You can fill that out now, or you can fill that out before you leave, whatever is convenient. right, we'll wait like another 2 minutes and then we'll get started. Okay, guys, so we're going to get started. I just want to welcome everyone today. My name is Corinne Derone. I work with the CTE office at the New York City Department of Education. And this event is a really unique collaboration with New York City Small Business Services, and we're really excited to be partnering with them on this event and 2 other events that we're going to be doing in March, end of March, and in April, which the folks at SBS will tell you about later. Before we start, I just want to get a sense of who's in the room today. So I'm going to just run a quick little poll to find out a couple things about you. Okay, lots of CTE students, that's great. And non-CTE, also great. There's always somebody who's not sure. CTE, just so you know, stands for Career and Technical Education. And these are programs that would be like electives at your school, like it could be an engineering program or a culinary program or a business program. So if you're in something like that at your school, it may be a CTE program. Okay, great. So a lot of you are CTE schools. I have one more question for you. Okay, so the focus of today's event is sustainability. So this is a trick question to see how much you know about sustainability. Let's see what we got. Oh, we got some smart ones. And some with a good sense of humor. I appreciate that. All right, so yes, answer 2, economic viability, environmental protection, and social equity, even though that's cut off there, sorry. Those are the 3 pillars of sustainability. All right, good stuff. So without further ado, I want to introduce our wonderful partners today, Alyssa Thomas from the Small Business Services, and she's going to introduce the panelists, and we'll go from there. Just as a quick reminder, please just keep yourselves on mute if you just joined. We will have periods where we can take questions from you, and you can drop those in the chat throughout the event, and we'll collect those and try to get to as many of them as we can. So welcome, Alyssa.
Great, thank you, Corinne. So I'm just going to share my screen with all of you guys and walk you through a little PowerPoint just about my team and what we'll be doing today on Inside Industrial. So hopefully everyone can see. Can you guys see my presentation? Yeah. Great. So today is our first edition of Inside Industrial, and it's focused on recycling in the circular economy. So our presenters will talk a lot more about what that actually means. But this is a series of events that we are doing. There are virtual tours and presentations with different business owners and industry leaders across the city that are focused on the industrial sectors The whole purpose is to introduce you guys to the processes, the equipment that takes place in the industrial sectors, and then how you can get involved either as a consumer or of course through career searches. We have 2 more that will be coming up through the year. One will be in March. The theme of that is tentative, but likely going to be on manufacturing and the healthcare sector. And then the final one is going to be on distribution in New York City. So I'm going to just start with brief introductions. So I'll walk through my team and the panelists. I'll ask everyone to introduce themselves, but I will start. So my name is Alyssa Thomas. I'm the Director of Talent and Strategy for the Manufacturing and Industrial Innovation Council. Again, this is housed at the Department of Small Business Services, and we work with businesses in the manufacturing and industrial sectors on tech, talent, and policy issues that they're facing. So what does manufacturing and industrial mean? It means manufacturing, transportation, logistics, distribution, waste management, and utilities. I'm going to ask my Executive Director, Michaela, to unmute herself and introduce herself.
Hello, everyone. Michaela Crater. So great to have you all join us. Really excited to hear your questions, and hope that everyone enjoys today's conversation. And thanks to our presenters and Alyssa and the team from DOE for helping us on this great event.
Great. I'm going to turn it over to my Director of Policy, Neil.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us and for having this. Yeah, as Alyssa mentioned, industrial sectors is, a lot of people don't know a lot about it, but it's way more important to the functioning of the city and to a lot of the goals that we all share as New Yorkers and as people in society than we realize. So I'm excited to learn a little bit more about what these companies are up to. So looking forward to your feedback too. Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks, Neil. Corinne already introduced herself, so I'm going to skip over her. If the folks at Sims could introduce themselves, we'll start with Kara and then Monica.
Hey everyone, I'm Kara Napolitano, Education and Outreach Coordinator for Sims Municipal Recycling. I'm located normally in Sunset Park, Brooklyn at that facility that you'll learn about shortly. And thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you. Monica.
Hi, I'm Monica. I'm a production manager in Sims. I'm actually located in Florida now, but I did work in Brooklyn in Sunset Park as well. So I'm pretty much a part of the team. Let's just put it like that. Nice to meet you.
Thank you, Monica. And then Tara from Study New York.
Hi guys, really nice to meet you. I'm going to tell you all about my work in sustainable fashion soon. And I'm really excited to be here because I've always wanted to tour Sims and never got a chance to. So this will be like virtual tour. Super excited.
That's great. I love that. It's a tour for everyone on this call. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about what is MAKE. So again, that's the Manufacturing and Industrial Innovation Council. That's my team. What we do and how you guys can keep in further contact with us. So you guys heard from Michaela and Neil. Of course, if you are interested in the industrial sectors, you have any general questions or want to keep in touch with us, you're more than welcome to drop us a line in the chat and we will follow up with you. But so just to give a glimpse of what we do, we are an organization that's within the city government, but we basically liaison and work with businesses across the city in the industrial sectors. So rather than us coming up with policies or mandates, the businesses that we work with tell us what they need in order to survive and thrive in New York City, and that's what we focus on. So we have an executive board that really guides that work, again, related to talent, technology, and policy. We have members of Sims who are actually on that executive board as well. So they're a big driver as we look towards what we do. But again, we focus on any challenges that the industry faces. We make sure that we build community, and of course, we improve the operating environment. And so what that looks like is, on my end, that looks like talent. With Michaela, that looks like any technology issues. And with Neil, that can look like policy. And so what policy means for the industrial sectors can be something like land use and zoning issues, transportation issues that they may be facing, plant and other kind of capital equipment stuff. So kind of again, the objectives for us is to focus on organizing talent, technology, policy, and regulation in order to help these businesses thrive here. So why isn't the industrial sector important to New York City? So it's essential to the functioning services. So if you ever get on a subway, which I'm sure many of you guys do, that wouldn't be possible without our industrial sectors keeping you moving back and forth, maintaining the systems themselves, and of course, supplying all of the parts and the equipment to do so. Unknown to many, the industrial sectors have more jobs than tech and finance in New York City, so a little around 600,000 jobs. The sector pays twice the wages of hospitality or retail sectors, and it's a great way to enter the middle class. It's also a fundamental component of innovation. And so we'll hear from two businesses today who will talk about how they are innovating within the recycling, reuse, and sustainability sectors. But these sectors also played a very critical role in our battle against COVID, with some of our companies pivoting to make PPE, even one of our companies producing around 3,000 ventilators for the city. So without these sectors, we wouldn't be able to not only innovate, but survive and prosper here. It's also vital in the response to climate change. Again, we'll hear a lot about that today and how these companies are playing a role in that, and to facilitating a transition to automation within the sectors. I seem to be frozen. Okay. Skip that. So just to talk a little bit about the makeup again, so it employs a little over 600,000 folks, which again, people might not know, it's as big as it actually is. But when we look at the total amount of companies in the manufacturing sector, there's a little over 5,500 manufacturers across the city. In transportation, logistics, distribution, a little over 18,500. And infrastructure and services, which again would be around like waste management types of companies, and utilities, which would be your Con Edisons, your national grids. There's a little over 1,000 of those. And you can see down here the top sectors within all of those things. So you see remediation, waste management, textile and apparel being the second when it comes to manufacturing. So right now I'm going to turn over to the business presentations. The way that this is going to work is we are going to hear from Sims first. They're going to share a video with us, and then we're going to move on to questions specifically for Kara and Monica. That'll be around 10 to 15 minutes worth of questions, and then we'll move on to Tara and we'll focus on study. So I'm going to stop sharing and turn it over to Kara.
All right, great. So we will share a virtual tour at this time of Sims Municipal Recycling. If you have questions as we go, hold on to those questions and we'll get them at the end. I'm going to turn my video off as well, so you don't have to look at two me's. Hold on one moment. Let me do this. That would be a lot on my face. All right. Alyssa, could you just verbally let me know if you can see that?
Yeah, we see that, Kara.
Okay, great. Because I can't see your face as well. It's in full screen. So
Tour through.
So here we go. I'll go to the beginning. And also, if you would like me to turn it up, if someone could just verbally say that as well, but I'll actually give it a little more and go from there.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kara Napolitano. I'm the Education and Outreach Coordinator for Sims Municipal Recycling, and I'll be taking you on a virtual tour through our facility today. So we'll start with this aerial of our facility, and you can see we are located right on the waterfront. We are in Sunset Park, Brooklyn. Our 11-acre pier is surrounded by water on 3 sides. You get a pretty excellent view of the Upper Bay, Staten Island, Jersey City, and downtown Manhattan as well from our facilities. So during the tour, I'll show you what happens inside of all these large buildings, but just a couple of things I like to point out from this aerial view. You can see we have a large solar array, and we also have a commercial scale wind turbine. So on a sunny and windy day, we can be up to 15% renewable energy. So Sims Municipal Recycling is our company name, but the type of facility we are is what's called a material recovery facility, also known as a MRF, which I will define for you in a moment, but I do just want to show you as we look at this photo, a different angle of an aerial of our 11-acre pier. You can see the solar panels and the turbine again, of course the turbine turning on the other side of your screen there, but you can also see many barges tied up to the side of the pier, and that is a main way that we transport materials to and from our facility. More on that in a moment. But a material recovery facility, a MRF, is a sorting facility for recyclables. MRFs actually exist around the country. MRFs exist around the world. Because think about how we recycle, right? We, residents or consumers, put different types of materials into a bin. At that point, they can't be reprocessed when they're all mixed together. So it's the job of the MRF to sort those materials out into their respective categories so they can be sold to the appropriate reprocessor and used to make new products. So the goal of the MRF is really to recover recyclable materials. And the whole point of this, the whole point of recycling is to close the loop, as they say. Maybe you've heard that phrase before, or maybe you've heard the phrase circular economy. So to assist in a circular economy, which basically means once a resource has been used, we keep it in use. We keep it in the loop. We keep it in the circular economy instead of linear economy, where we just take resources, use them, and then toss them. So the whole goal here is to eliminate or minimize waste. So we're sending less waste to landfills and incinerators, which is where our waste goes in this country, where our trash goes, and then minimize the amount of resources that we are extracting, right? Like that's a photo of bauxite, which is used to make aluminum, or oil, which is used to make plastics. These are finite resources. So recycling is a way of recovering resources so we are using less and wasting less as well. So a big part of that is, of course, going to be educating the public. And this is one thing that we do at Sims. We help get the word out and let New Yorkers know what is recyclable, what belongs in the bin. This is actually my job in the company as education and outreach coordinator, but it's also a major job of the New York City Department of Sanitation. You can see their emblem right here. We work very closely with them. They are the city agency that keeps the city clean and safe. They collect your waste, they collect your recyclables, they actually also plow snow and handle the street sweepers, street cleaners. So the Department of Sanitation really laid out these guidelines. They worked with us to generate these guidelines of what belongs in the bins. So in New York City, we have a dual stream recycling program. In one bin, residents are to recycle metal, glass bottles and jars, rigid plastic and cartons, and in another bin, residents are to place mixed paper and cardboard, and everything else goes into the trash. At Sims, we mainly deal with the blue bin, the metal, glass, plastic, and cartons. Those are the materials that it is our job to then sort out and prepare for sale. So we receive materials and they are mixed together in a great big pile, as you see on one side of your screen, but then it is our job to sort them out and bale them up. Bales, that is what you see on the other side of your screen, and that is our product. That's what we make in the MRF. So let's go inside the MRF and let's see how this happens. So this room with this mountain of materials is called our tipping floor. This is where we receive materials before sorting them. Items that were placed into the blue bin from all of the city. All the city's blue bin recyclables will go through Sims. So that excavator in the background will be run by one of our equipment operators. It is unloading a barge. And then the yellow vehicle, the front end loader, also, of course, run by one of our equipment operators, will be pushing the materials into the system. And we are sorting about 1,000 tons of materials each day at our facility. So that's 1,000 tons of materials that will, most of which will be recovered and recycled instead of going to waste. Just turning the sound on for a moment there to give you a sense of how loud it is in here, but this is a shot of the front end loader pushing recyclables into our sorting system. This is a video of our sorting system. This is where the recyclables are then sorted into their categories: glass, metal, plastic, cartons, and residue. So this is a system of overall about 2.5 miles of conveyor belts. It's stretched from end to end. It is operating 24 hours a day, 5, sometimes 6 days a week, 3 shifts a day. 2 shifts a week, however, about 2 shifts a week will be devoted to cleaning and maintenance, just to keep the system running at its best. So I'll show you how it works and what happens inside the system. So remember, we're sorting metal, glass, plastic, and cartons. To sort glass, that's the first material we sort. We use disc screens, spinning metal rods. That materials just roll over the top, right? These rods spin, everything rolls over the top. So you can see plastic rolling over. You can see some metal in there. You can see a lot of plastic bags that should not be there because we are not supposed to put plastic bags in our recycling bin, but unfortunately a lot of people do. So as those materials pass over the disc screens, glass is going to hit into those metal rods and break into small pieces. And as you can see here, those small pieces fall in between openings in the disc screen and then fall through and are caught by another conveyor belt below that takes the glass out the back. And that's how we've sorted the glass. So next in the process, materials will pass under a drum magnet that will attract all ferrous, all magnetic metal from the mix, pulls it out, drops it onto another conveyor belt. And we've sorted out all the ferrous or all the magnetic metal. So after the drum magnet, materials will pass under a series of optical scanners. You can see things flying by on the conveyor, and then there's a line of light right there. That is our scanner, one of our scanners. So the optical scanners use near infrared light to identify the chemical makeup of all the materials that fly by. We can program them to look for different types of materials. So when it finds what it's looking for, it turns on a jet of air at the end of the conveyor that shoots that item up through the air and onto another conveyor belt. We have 16 of these at our facility, and that is a lot as far as MRFs go. So this line of light, that's where the camera is, and then you can see some things will shoot up and over, other things will just fall. The last step after our series of optical scanners, what's left will pass over an eddy current, which works like a reversed magnet. So materials fall onto this conveyor, and then you can see at the end, certain items get repelled off the end over that barrier onto another conveyor belt. So that's aluminum foil, cans, other non-ferrous, non-magnetic metals. They hit the eddy current, they get repelled. And the last crucial step is our quality control specialist. And this is where humans do a final cleanup, giving material lines a final check, just removing anything that shouldn't be there and bringing the value and the quality of our product up. So this is our baler that compresses these sorted recyclables. The bales are held together with steel cabling, and they're ready to be sold and used again. We will store bales in our bale storage room. You can see a few different types of bales here. We have some colorful plastic called Hdpe color, some clear plastic over here called PET, that's soda bottles and water bottles. So then our bales will leave our facility. Some will be loaded onto rail cars. Many of our bales will go out on trucks. So this forklift loading bales onto the back of a truck. And then they will go on to companies that will use them to make new products. So this does not happen at Sims, but I do want to mention it as part of this process because there are, many more ways to be involved in recycling outside of our facility, but that are still really key parts of the recycling process. So just a couple of examples, water bottles that we receive, we will sort them out from the mix, bale them up. They're called PET plastic. They will be sent to a plastic reclaimer that will chop the plastic up into flakes and then melt those flakes and turn them into pellets, as you see in that bottom picture. Those pellets can then be used to make more water bottles, maybe, but they might be used to make clothing, or they might even be used to make carpeting. Often PET plastic will be recycled into carpeting or a textile. So HDPE color, that colorful plastic that I mentioned before, that's going to be detergent jugs. We will sort them out into their own bales, sell them also to a plastic reclaimer. But remember, this is colorful plastic. So these flakes will be mixed together and probably form a black plastic and are often used to make drainage pipes. So if you've ever seen those large black drainage pipes used for construction projects or, you know, diverting or controlling water, that's often what those colorful HDPE plastics will become. And then metal, so our tin can bales or ferrous metal bales, you know, our metal bales are going to be smelted and could really be used to make a variety of metal products. So just one example, a steel beam that could be used for, you know, a bridge, building, what have you. Glass, obviously we cannot bale it up, but clear glass bottles or jars will most likely go to a glass furnace and be used to make more bottles or jars. So who's making all of this happen? Because I've shown you a lot of, I think, neat technology, and I've shown you our large system, but who are the faces behind it making it all run? We are highly automated at our facility, but we still require skilled human power to keep it running. If you remember, we have 1,000 tons of materials to sort every day, and that is a lot. So of course, there's quality control specialists, again, a crucial step in our sorting process, and laborers who keep our system running, keep it running smoothly. And then laborers and quality control specialists do have the potential to be promoted to equipment operator, operating a forklift or a front end loader, the yellow truck that was pushing the recyclables into the system, or a crane or excavator. And then there is potential to be promoted to supervisor or manager, one of our managers here, and then another one here who was lucky enough to get to pose with a Sesame Street character. We do get some positive and fun media at our facility, which is great because it helps us, again, educate the public, which is a very important part of what we do. And then security guard, very important at a facility like ours. We need to keep our grounds safe. And then mechanic. We have some seriously skilled mechanics. We need seriously skilled mechanics. If you saw that system, we need it to be running at its very best. And if something breaks, we need someone who can think fast and fix it quickly, because 1,000 tons to sort a day, we can't afford a large amount of downtime. So one employee that we are very lucky to have with us as part of the panel, you'll meet her shortly, is Monica Ferraris. She is currently a production manager at our West Palm Beach facility down in Florida. Monica is an incredibly knowledgeable employee. She gave me my first tour when I started working at Sims, and I was just blown away by her understanding of the system, of the facility. So she began working for Sims Municipal Recycling in March of 2015. She was hired as a quality control specialist. So she started on the picking line, you know, as that final step in the process, and she was promoted to supervisor and then promoted again and is currently production manager, again, down in West Palm Beach, Florida, at another MRF, material recovery facility, that Sims recently took over and started running. So one quote from Monica that I especially enjoyed, she said, "Sims has been like a school in every possible way, pushing me to learn new things and achieve." And I didn't have space to write it there, but she actually said achieve and then overachieve. You know, Monica's intelligence, passion, capability has really helped her thrive, I think, at this facility. And she's really done great things for the company. And again, glad to have her here today. You'll meet her very soon. So other jobs at Sims as well. You know, there's not just jobs within the system. There's jobs within the office. You know, it's a very large company. So this is a photo of one of our legal assistants in one of the branches of our company. And then marketing, you know, someone has to sell these bales. Marketing and sales, crucial, very important. This gentleman is an engineer. So many engineer feats go into a facility such as ours, a large scale facility, so many moving parts and multiple types of engineers may be involved. And then education. So as I said before, we need to educate the public. People need to know how recycling works and how they are to be participating in order for there to be a successful recycling program. We can't have people putting the wrong thing in the bins. We can't have people not putting the right thing in the bins and putting it in the trash. And then this sort of widens the scope of employment a bit. So these are some of the architects that actually worked on the design of our facility. Our Brooklyn facility was designed by Seldorf Architects, a fairly well-known firm, and they were very excited to get this project and be a part of this project. And I just put that there to show you, it's not just the people working at our recycling facility that have important hands in the recycling process and in the waste management process and in the sustainability process. There's a very wide, large system of many jobs that are connected and have a hand in this. Another part of our facility is our Recycling Education Center. And this is a great way for us to connect with the public, interact with the public, and give the public a hands-on experience, showing them, what happens at our facility, what happens at these sorting facilities, these MRFs, how does it work? How does recycling work? So in the Recycling Education Center, we have a lot of fun things you can play with. There's this conveyor belt that has a magnet on it, so you can watch how magnetic metal is sorted from non-magnetic. You see the magnetic sticks to the magnet there and drops in here. The non-magnetic metal just falls off into that bin there. We have an air jet, if you'll remember, like the air jet we have in the system where you can sort out different types of plastics and shoot them into different bins. We have a hand sorting station where you can sort different materials into different bins as fast as you can. And then we have the job wheel. And this is what I would like to end on for all of you, because the job wheel is fun for high schoolers to experience when they come to our facility, but really fun for people of all ages, because it gives you the sense of the scope of employment opportunities that are related to recycling. So this wheel has 60 numbers on it. And then next to it, there is a list of 60 jobs all connected to the recycling industry. Some of them are at our facility, but some of them, many of them are not. So we're going to spin the wheel in a moment, but first I just want to share the stat that is on your screen as well, that recycling actually creates 10 times the number of jobs as does landfilling our waste. So not only are we preserving resources and diverting waste from landfills and incinerators, but we're also creating jobs. You spin the wheel and you get a number. And the number I got, I believe, was right in between 12 and 13. So I decided on 12. And I got city planner, which, you think city planner, you might not think, oh, recycling, but think of, how can you design a city to make waste management as efficient and streamlined as possible? So the trucks don't have to drive around as much, or so there's more space to set out materials and then collect materials or keep materials from flying into the environment. A lot of possibilities there. Chemist is on there as well, designing materials that are easier to recycle or have a lower environmental impact. Civil engineer, designing wharfs, parking lots, loading docks, stormwater ponds, and foundations for buildings and recycling equipment. We had to work with the civil engineer in designing our facility. DSNY collection worker. These are the brave men and women who go out into the streets of New York City and collect our waste, collect our recyclables through pandemics, through storm and rain. That is a very well-paid job as well. And then just on the side, forklift operator, that is something at our facility, equipment mechanic, definitely, and financial manager, something that will happen in the offices of our facility. So again, wide scope of employment. And that brings me to the end of the virtual tour. Just a reminder, recycling is important, but reduce and reuse, those R's are actually far more impactful. So reduce, reuse, recycle, it's more than just a cute song. These are really our things to implement into your daily lives. Thank you.
All right. There you go.
Fantastic. That was a great presentation, Kara. Thank you so much. So as Corinne said, you guys can drop some questions in the chat. I'm going to open up with some questions for Kara and for Monica. And then, of course, as your questions come in, guys, please feel free to do so, and we'll get to yours. Definitely don't want them to just be all of my questions, even though I have a bunch and I have been to your facility, as my team has, and we love it. But so one question I had to start off with is, you talked a lot about reduce, reuse, recycling, and just sustainability in general. And so currently Sims is at 15% renewable energy for the Sunset Park location. Is this something that you implement at all of your locations? Is there a plan or intention to increase the amount of renewable energy that your facilities run off of?
We do have solar at our Jersey facility as well. We have a smaller MRF in Jersey City that's been open longer. We also have our glass sorting facility over there and a metals facility. We would very much like to install more solar panels on the roof of our Brooklyn facility, but every time I get an update on that, it's sort of caught up in red tape, unfortunately. We have put in an application to install these panels, and I guess it can be challenging on a large scale to get permission to install panels such as that. But we would love it. We wouldn't necessarily go with another turbine. Those, a city isn't really an ideal location for a turbine, so we would more want the solar panels.
Okay, perfect. In terms of the city's waste, do we know what percentage of the city's waste is actually being recycled, and then what percentage of that waste goes through Sims?
Yes, so I'll give you all the numbers quickly. So in New York City, every single day on the residential side, so residential waste coming from homes and schools mainly, that's 12,000 tons of waste total each day. So that's equal to about 1,000 large school buses of waste. And that's total waste, trash, recyclables, compost, everything each day. So about 2,000 tons of that each day ends up being recycled. It's funny, it's about 1,000 tons of paper and about 1,000 tons of metal, glass, plastic, and cartons. 2,000 tons a day gets recycled. But there's another 2,000 tons that could be recycled that ends up in the trash, unfortunately. So New Yorkers put about 50% of what they could into the recycling bin.
So there's a lot of education, obviously, as we know through your role of how to do that. And I'll say, even for me this year, learning continually, I need to put this in here and that in there is definitely an ongoing thing. So when thinking about the circular economy in general, how many times can different products or materials be reused? Is there a limit to certain things? Is there not? So for example, perhaps glass, how often can glass be reused versus plastics?
Yeah, and it's definitely different, obviously from material to material. So metal can be recycled endlessly, as long as it is placed into a recycling bin. Obviously, if a recyclable is placed in the trash, that's it, that's the end. In this country, it's very, very, very rare. Hardly ever will a recyclable be fished out of the trash and then recycled. But metal can be recycled endlessly. Glass can be recycled endlessly, but that's only bottles and jars, because that's what there is a market for. That's what recyclers want to buy, because they're making bottles and jars. So glass bottles and jars can be, but if it's dyed a color, that can be a little bit tricky. Often glass that's been dyed a color will be downcycled and used for construction projects, but clear glass will likely be for bottles and jars. And then plastic, what they say is it starts to degrade after 5 or so. I've heard 4, I've heard 7, about 5 times.
Okay.
And it's similar with paper, it will degrade over time.
Interesting. Can you talk a little bit more about the market for some of these items, right? Like, so how you said glass, I think some people don't necessarily know that it can be hard to recycle items because there's not a market to rebuy them. So
yeah, that's such an important part of recycling that we don't always think about when we put the thing in the bin. We just feel good. We're like, I'm recycling it, I'm not throwing it away. Great. But it can only go in that bin. It can only be a part of your recycling program if someone wants to buy it down the line, if there's a company that wants to use that material in their products or packaging. So the materials that are accepted basically are going to be the ones that have a market. There's a reason that we don't want your plastic bags in there. They're hard to sort and they're hard to sell. They're hard to recycle. There's a reason we don't want clothing to go in the recycling bin with metal, glass, plastic, and cartons. It's such a different material. It needs to be handled differently. It's a little bit more complicated to recycle. And it's very hard to sort it out from everything else. Can you imagine a pair of pants going through that system that I showed you? Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Great. So in terms of the system itself, right, how complicated it is, what really goes into maintaining a system like that? And how often do you have to make new capital improvements or invest in new technologies? And what are the technologies that are on the horizon for recycling that you guys are interested in investing in?
Monica, do you want to say anything about what it takes to run this system? I've watched it, but I've never run it. Maybe she had to step away for a second. I can, hi, Monica.
No, I'm here. I'm
Great.
here. I'm here. I'm listening. I'm here. Hey, so in order to keep up with the whole production, to continue recycling and continue to improve in many ways, of course, we have meetings to go over certain things that need improving, right? Whether it's with the system or I guess in a general way to make things better for us as a total team, the sorters, the equipment operators, also the mechanics. Talking about the mechanics though, they, like you said, Carol, they play a huge part, right? Maintenance is a really big thing. So we constantly try to battle a whole bunch of things to basically prevent us from going down, our systems need to keep running because we keep recycling, which is a great thing. So all of those things play a part, besides that, in the management aspect, we do try to create a safer environment as well, to make sure that we could keep running in the best way possible. But yeah, that's pretty much all it takes, us working as a team in order to continue to improve and continue to add on to the facilities that we have.
Yeah.
Sure.
So important to stay aware of where you're at and how things are running to know.
Exactly. So to kind of shift on the kind of talent, what it's like working at Sims, and I'm starting with you, Kara, and then I'll go to Monica with more specific questions, but just from a general perspective to start off broadly, how many employees around the country does Sims currently have? How many in New York? You don't know.
I don't know. I mean, so Sims is a very large multinational company with many divisions. So Sims Municipal Recycling, this is the division of the company that Monica and I work with. And I think it's actually the smallest or one of the smaller divisions of like there's Sims Metal, that's huge. There's Sims Resource Renewal, which does electronic recycling. So there are many divisions. Sims Municipal Recycling, I know we have our facility in Brooklyn, Jersey City, and now West Palm Beach, Florida. So I'm not sure how many are employed total, but I do know in Brooklyn, it's usually about 115 employees. And I think, and Monica, if you remember, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's about 33 will be on per shift, 33 employees per shift.
Yeah, well, in SMR in total is about 300.
Great.
So yeah, that's your answer.
So there's a lot of opportunities within Sims Municipal Recycling, but of course the larger parent company, which has a multitude of different avenues. Fantastic.
Yes, Sims Limited is the larger company name, Sims Limited.
Let's see, I think I have a question from Neil quickly, which is, do recyclables go straight from people's houses right to the Sims facility, or is there a middle step?
So if the recyclables were collected in Brooklyn, sort of in the vicinity of the Brooklyn facility, then yes, the collection trucks, the Department of Sanitation collection trucks will pick them up, bring them directly to Brooklyn. But recyclables collected in Queens or Upper Manhattan or the Bronx, that's not exactly close to the Brooklyn facility. So those trucks will go to a transfer facility. The trucks will unload and then will be loaded onto barges. The contents will be loaded onto barges. So, anytime that the city can defer away from truck traffic, we will. They will. So using barges instead of trucks.
Neil's probably like, yep, that sounds right. So for Monica, I have a bunch of questions. And I think, just for the students here to hear about kind of what is your background, how you heard about Sims, how you got started as a quality control specialist, and then just like that journey to production manager, what types of trainings or kind of upskilling that Sims helped you with to get there, what type of new skills you had to learn kind of along the pathway to get to your current role.
Well, before I started with Sims, I was actually in a trade school. So I was studying carpentry and welding, and I was obviously fascinated by that. But as I was, trying to move forward and trying to learn new things, I was 17, turning 18. So I was trying to experience as much as possible. And they actually referred me to Sims. So as soon as I went in, I went to the interview and they gave me a tour, and I fell in love. Not to be dramatic, I fell in love. I really did. I was fascinated by the whole process. And to be honest with you, before I used to actually collect bottles myself. So it was a very small thing once I got to see the bigger picture, and I didn't know much about recycling. So I was pretty excited about that. Now, as Kara mentioned before, I did start as a quality control specialist. So I was sorting on the lines, and I was getting to know every single piece of material that goes through the systems and gets recycled and everything. But along with that, I am a very driven person, so I did want to know more. So whatever opportunity I had to ask questions, that's exactly what I did. And then along with that, I became the guide for the Department of Sanitation trucks, those that come in to dump the material for us to put it through the process. So obviously, little by little, I started learning every single piece of the puzzle, as you may say. And once again, asking questions, I started learning a bit more about mechanical work, how they would fix conveyor belts, how they would, do certain things to help out the systems, so that we could keep running. And then, yeah, they saw that I had, potential, and I really appreciate that. So they put me to be a supervisor. And as a supervisor, obviously working with people, I learned way more about everything that goes on, how to make sure that you're constantly taking the time to see things about safety, and also try to be productive in a smarter way and everything. So yeah, I really pushed myself a lot, and then the opportunity showed up, and they made me a production
Florida.
manager.
And now she lives in sunny Florida.
Yes, I do, and it's beautiful here. Not to brag, sorry.
It was
So,
snowing in Brooklyn.
Yeah, there's a lot of snow here. So did you make the move to Florida when you became a production manager? Was that when that promotion happened?
Right. So when Sims started doing production here in the West Palm Beach facility, they actually gave me the opportunity to come down and become a production manager.
It's fantastic. So in your current role, I guess, when you oversee a whole team, what is the top skill that you're looking for someone who might be entry, right, like young like you were, coming into the facility looking for a job? What is it that you're looking for in those candidates?
I'm definitely looking for drive.
Mhm.
So I want people to be interested. I want people to know more and have that wanting to learn more, because recycling, it might seem small to a lot of people, but it is a really big thing. It is a really big part of our lives now, and global warming and everything is included, so with recycling we could really improve, so that's what I'm looking for, drive.
Great.
Definitely.
How about you, Kara? Is there any, maybe in the kind of office side of the house, what are you guys really looking for people to come on? Because as Kara explained earlier, there's tons of jobs, including jobs like Monica's, but of course things that Kara does within the office and with the public.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not in position to hire anyone unless they're going to work in the education department, but I think it's similar. I think it's a drive and interest in not just recycling, but in seeing recycling as a part of the sustainability picture. It is a business, it is an industry, so it has to operate as such. But just seeing where our place is in the larger process of forming a circular economy and building towards a sustainable future.
That's great. So if anyone on the webinar right now is interested in learning more about SIMS opportunities working there, or, I'm not sure how this looks in a COVID environment, if you guys do internships or mentorships, but what are ways that young people can get involved, those who perhaps are still in school?
You can definitely reach out to education@simsmm.com. I'll put that in the chat. You can also visit our website, which I can also put in the chat. I believe you can still submit job applications on the website as well, or there should be information for submitting on our website also. But if you just want more information, we do virtual tours all the time, and I do hire education interns. Right now, it's all virtual, so it's not quite as fun and in person as it used to be, but it will be in person again. So, keep that in mind for sure.
That's great. I just have one more question from Neil, and then I'm going to move on to our next presenter. But Neil has a very specific question about apartment buildings and what they're recycling. So it looks like they have single stream recycling, which is paper, metal, plastic, all in one bin, right? I think all of us who live in New York know that we do separate our recycling for you guys. But are the buildings not doing it right, or is there a way that this sorts before it actually gets to SIMS?
So in any part of New York City, if you live in a residential building that is not separating paper from metal, glass, plastic, 98% of the time that you're doing it wrong, essentially. It is very, very rare that apartment buildings will then, sort the paper from the metal, glass, plastic, or that there will be another step conducted by someone. There's just no official step for that. The law is paper is to be in its own bin, in its own stream. Metal, glass, plastic cartons are to be in their own stream. Like I said, it is where some buildings will sort it for you, but that's really the exception to the rule.
That's good to know. Well, thank you guys both, Kara and Monica. Again, Kara put their email in the chat, so if you guys have more questions, you can follow up with her there. But we are going to move on to Tara right now, who's going to tell us a little bit more about study. So Tara, feel free to start sharing your screen.
Okay. Hi, guys. I have most of the information and introduction of myself on my presentation, so I'm just going to jump right into it. So that way we have plenty of time to talk about stuff. So let's see. Should be good, right? You can see my screen now?
Yep, we can see it.
Great. And so I'm going to be talking about waste primarily and sustainability in the fashion industry. So if I do say anything that maybe is very specific to the industry and maybe goes over your head, I apologize for that, but please feel free to either put in the chat box a question mark or unmute yourselves and interrupt me, because I do have a tendency to do that, but I will try to explain what I can. Let's see. So this is me in my first foray into the fashion industry. I actually studied menswear design. So I have a degree in tailoring from Canada, where I was born and raised. I moved to New York in 2004 to start my brand. But before that, I designed my first collection when I was 5 years old. So clearly this is something that I've wanted to do my entire life. Obviously, sustainability back then, which was a really long time ago, was not part of the conversation in the fashion industry, nor was it even part of my education, which I'll be honest was in the 1990s. So while there certainly were people talking about sustainability back then, brands like Eileen Fisher and Patagonia were really thinking about it, it was not very common. So I approached fashion from a very, very traditional place. I never produced this collection, but I plan to one day, hopefully. But I'll give you a little bit more about my trajectory and how I ended up doing what I'm doing now, which is quite different from the average fashion designer who's working for a big company that you might know. So when I moved to New York in 2004, I was working for a company called Covet, and that's where I had what I call my aha moment of, oh my gosh, I need to do things better for this industry and be more responsible, or else I need to leave it. I think Monica kind of had that same epiphany when she toured the Sims facility, or at least it sounded like that when she was talking about it. And I was in China working in a factory at the time and looking at the difference between conventional cotton and organic cotton, and kind of had this, oh crap, excuse my French, what do I do now? I either have to leave this industry or I have to do better. And so I decided to do better. And that's when I started Study New York, which was a brand that was all my own, and produced in New York City using a few different strategies for sustainability. And so if you were paying attention to the little quiz at the beginning, the 3 different strategies for sustainability, those definitely overlap with the fashion industry. And I'm going to go back to those in a second. But I decided I wanted to produce the brand locally in New York City in the garment district using sustainable materials and zero waste production methods. And so I started teaching a class on sustainable textiles at FIT. I actually still teach that class remotely now because everything's virtual. And the class is for industry professionals who want to re-educate themselves on issues of sustainability in fashion. So it's a really great program through FIT that is available to everybody. I also started working with Pratt Institute in Brooklyn, and we had opened in 2014 a fashion and design accelerator for brands who wanted to be more sustainable. So I started working with them to run a production facility and build a materials library. Sadly, we closed that in 2019. So I can't show you around because otherwise I would still be there to show you. But I continued doing a lot of the work that I was doing for Pratt, but on my own through what I called the Study New York Resource Library, which is a sustainable textile library and sourcing service to help other designers in New York and everywhere find better materials. And then some of the other things on this list are prizes that I won through study or organizations that I joined, like Fashion Revolution. And if you want to get involved, I definitely suggest you look up Fashion Revolution. It's an organization based out of the UK, but they're global now. And they're really for consumers to help them learn how to be better and more responsible consumers and how to interact with brands and be more sustainable. And they have a lot of education on their platform. So that's a great initiative that I definitely recommend. So this is a quote that I think is really impactful and important for me. But I'm going to show you a little bit about the process of manufacturing. So these are the 10 strategies for sustainable design that were outlined by an organization in Sweden and run by a school in the UK. And I can put a link to, because you can't click on that little link in the bottom, but I can put a link in the chat box so you can go and visit, because it has little videos and explains all of them. But so if you think back to those 3 strategies, all 10 of these fall under one of those 3. So if you think of design to minimize waste, that means you're reducing waste in production and at the end of life of a garment. Design for cyclability means you can take it back and recycle it. Design to reduce chemical impacts. If you think of food, it also means like organic materials that are not toxic. I'm going to just check, sorry, I can't see the chat. Okay, thank you. So I'm not going to go through all 10 of these because you'll have a chance to do that on your own if you're interested. But all 10 of these really fall under those 3 core strategies, which were social, environmental, so it's people or the planet, And it's really important to be able to identify which ones are most important as a brand and follow those. So like I mentioned, mine were number 1, designed to minimize waste. Number 7, designed for ethical production, which is why I wanted to produce locally in New York City so I could meet the factory and work closely with them. And number 8, designed to reduce the need to consume, all the while using materials that were certified organic or recycled. So this is, usually I make people guess when they're not coming from the fashion industry, but because I know we are short on time, I'm just going to tell you what this is. This is a pattern marker. And that big 15% at the bottom is what is wasted. So if you imagine, I'm sure you can all picture what a clothing factory looks like, or maybe you've seen Project Runway, so you know what it looks like when they cut out fabric. All of these colored pieces on the screen are pattern pieces that get cut out. Those little numbers on them are the size. So you have sizes 4, 6, 8, 10. And then all the white bits in between that is what goes to waste. And the average in the industry is about 15%. But actually, the real average of textile waste is closer to somewhere between 35 and 50%. And I'm going to have you guess why. Because this that you see in front of you is a very efficient pattern marker, but not all of them are that efficient. So sometimes there's a lot more waste. Sometimes there's some fabric left over from the production that doesn't get used. Sometimes the brand cancels the order, and so the fabric just gets left behind at the factory. There's a lot of different reasons why there would be textile waste, and I wanted to stop as many of them as I could. Of course, it's impossible to stop them all, but I was trying to stop as many as I could, and that's why I started zero waste pattern making. But actually, just to go back to this, there is an organization, and I don't know if you're going to be introduced to them, called Fab Scrap. In New York City that I definitely recommend looking up, because they are trying to recycle all of that textile waste from designers in the city. So certainly recommend you can go and volunteer with them and then get some free fabric to work with if anyone's interested in sewing or crafting. But so I started approaching zero waste as a pattern making philosophy. This is one of the pieces from my first collection. So it's modular. All those buttons, you can unbutton and rebutton things so that you can wear it in multiple ways. And if you remember those 10 strategies, that falls under designing to replace the need to consume, because you get one garment that can be worn 3 or 4 different ways rather than having to buy 3 garments. It's also zero waste. So this is the pattern. It's a little bit lazy on my part as far as patterns. It's squares and rectangles that then get pleated and folded together. But this was in an art exhibit called Yield several years ago that toured around the world on zero waste pattern making. I'm going to show you some actual complicated zero waste patterns. So this is what they look like. So a lot more complex, a lot more focused. This has multiple garments at the same time. So you can see on the left, it says hoodie, t-shirt, and then in the middle, there's a pant, a dress, a vest. So it's different pieces from different styles, and they're all mixed together so that there's no waste. And it's left to right. If you look on each of the 3 panels, there's no white spaces in between, which means no waste. Here's another example. So this is the hoodie on the left with the pattern on the right. Both of them are from some professors at Parsons who wrote a book on zero waste patterns and made it open source. So anyone who is interested in using those patterns could buy the book, and I think you can actually download them from their website as well, and then just use the patterns, which is really innovative in the fashion industry, which usually is so secretive. Another way that I approached waste was through combining and taking back my waste. So the dress you see on the left is from a collection in 2015, but we still produce it today. And then on the right is all of the scraps that were left over from production. And because I was producing the dress in New York, it was really easy to save the scraps. So we asked the factory to collect them, pick them up on the subway, bring them back to our studio in Brooklyn, and then cut them up and turn them into these balls of what I call yarn that basically looks like regular yarn. And we would use that, give that over to an organization called Weaving Hand that's still based in Brooklyn. And they will weave all of that yarn back into new materials. So we're taking back the waste from one product and turning it into another product. And that eventually became this, what we call the weaving hand sweatshirt. So all of the waste from those dresses turned into these hand woven sweatshirts. So we would only make these sweatshirts when we had extra waste from the dresses. And another thing we did was change the label of the garments. So labeling in fashion is really, really important. If you look at any of the garments that you have in your wardrobe now, you'll see some things on the label. And this is the label that's usually at the back neck. So you'll see the name of the brand. You'll see generally the size, the content, which is what it's made of. So if it's cotton or polyester or rayon or nylon. And then you'll also see the country where it was made usually and how to wash it. So I wanted to do things a little bit differently. Of course, it has how to wash it and how to take care of it, but also has, and I know it's a little blurry, so I put on the right what's actually on here, have the fiber origin, so where the fabric was grown and made, where the name of the fabric mill is, so where the fabric was processed, where the sewing facility is, and then the signature of the person who sewed the clothing. And that was really important to me because I wanted to reconnect the worker with the person who was going to wear the garment. And it wasn't just about the brand, it wasn't just about the designers of the brand, but it was also about all the people making it. And usually you wouldn't see this information on a label because people in the fashion industry tend to be very protective of what we call their supply chain or the information of all the people who are working for them. And this was really important to me to change that a little bit and share that information out with other brands and with my customers, because I wanted them to know where things were made. So this actually, and I know you can't really see, but it says the organic cotton was from North Carolina. It was knit in a factory in North Carolina, and then it was sewn in our factory in Brooklyn. And so this is the problem that I was addressing, is that our usual fashion industry operates in isolation. And generally we tend to have very limited access to information from other brands. So to beat that, I was starting to look at what was being said about the fashion industry on the outside. This is news from 2018, which feels like a lifetime ago now, but it's still very similar today. And this was at a time when big fashion houses were burning or destroying their clothes. I don't know if all of you remember any of that, but everyone from H&M to Burberry were being accused of destroying perfectly good clothes because they didn't want to donate it, and so chose to burn it or to destroy it and throw it out instead. And this has been happening for a really long time. This wasn't the first time that it happened in 2018. It's just that customers like yourselves and the press started paying attention and realizing that there was a real problem here. And so now we can't get away with the things that the industry used to get away with. And it shouldn't be the reason why fashion converts to sustainable businesses, but it is a reason why we're starting to shed some light on the issues. And a reason to combat that is collaboration. I'm going to skip over this just for time because this is a little bit more industry specific, but I'm going to direct you to a couple examples that are not study related that I look to that I think are really, really important. One of them is Allbirds and Adidas. So I'm sure you've all heard about Adidas. You maybe haven't heard about Allbirds, but it's a shoe company based out of San Francisco that makes their shoes out of wool and sugarcane. And a couple of years ago, their shoe, which was really popular, got copied by Amazon. And they got really angry at Amazon, not for copying the shoe, but because they didn't copy the materials that the shoe were made of. Amazon made it out of plastic and I don't remember what. And Allbirds took out an ad in the press and said, well, if you're going to copy us, that's fine, but at least copy the ethical things that we're doing and not just copying the look of the shoe. And Adidas took note of that and said, yeah, actually, we want to do that, but we want to work with you. And so now they're collaborating on the most sustainable shoe possible. And 10 years ago, this would never have happened in the industry because, like I said, people were very protective and now they don't need to be anymore. So I think this is really powerful. Oh yeah, this is where I'm going to skip. So now some great examples of circular solutions in the industry that I'm not doing, but wish I was. But I wanted to give you some other examples. So there's a company out of California called 4 Days, and they make organic cotton t-shirts that they sell to their customers. And when the customers don't want the t-shirts anymore, they can ship them back, and 4 Days will recycle them and send you a new t-shirt for much cheaper. So it's like a subscription model. And I know I'm showing my age here, but most of you probably don't remember when Netflix used to send out a DVD, and then when you send it back, you'd get the next one on your list. Basically, it's like that for t-shirts. I know Netflix doesn't do that anymore. That's how it used to work, but it's the best comparison I have for business model. And they do that by using this supplier called Returnity, which is reusable packaging. So it's not paper packaging, it's not plastic packaging, it's a nylon bag that you zip closed, and you can zip tie it closed and send back your old t-shirts, and then they ship you the new one in exchange. So without projects like this, there wouldn't really be able to be a truly sustainable circular business model for 4 Days. Another example that you've probably all heard of is Eileen Fisher's Waste No More project. This is where they take back the clothes that their customers don't want to wear, and they make them into something new. One of the ways they do that is through a supplier called Feltloom, which is a new felting machine that basically is thousands of little tiny needles that punch the fabric together. So you can put all kinds of different fabric scraps together and make a new fabric. So kind of like what I was doing with Weaving Hand, but with a different process. Here's another example that I love, a brand out of LA called Industry of All Nations, and they work with very transparent supply chains. So all of their factories are listed on their website, and they're working with the New Denim Project in Guatemala, which is a closed loop textile mill in Guatemala City that collects all of that textile waste. So remember that pattern that I showed you at the beginning, all that 15% waste, they take it from a denim factory and make it into a new textile, not with using no dyes or chemicals and very little water, because they're respinning the blue denim into new blue fabric. So they're not re-dyeing it. So everything they make is this light blue color because that's the color of jeans. Here's another one out of Germany that is doing supply chain for organic cotton. And very, very small quantities. So they work with really small independent designers in Europe and America to make a very high quality organic cotton or recycled wool products. Here's one that I'm really excited about. So it's a vegan leather alternative to plastic. So there's no plastic involved, and it's made in the United States. It's called Mirum. It's made from vegetable oil and hemp and coconut husks and a whole bunch of other natural things. So it's biodegradable and recyclable and made domestically. So it's an alternative to fake leather, basically. Sequins are made of plastic too. You may not have known that, but this company out of London is making recycled plastic sequins as well as biodegradable sequins, which is very exciting. And then one of my favorites is this called the invisible bag. So I know New York tried to ban the plastic bag last year, and it became very, very difficult. And this isn't just about plastic bags, it's also about all the plastic packaging you get when you order online. So next time you order online, pay attention to all the plastic that you might be getting. This is a water-soluble bag that leaves no trace, so it's marine safe. You put it in your sink when you get it, pour hot water on it, and it degrades naturally, which is pretty cool. And so you can make any kind of plastic packaging, shippers, mailers, and carry bags, like for the bodega. And this is another supplier that I love, also in the United States, and they do on-demand manufacturing. So they'll make one garment at a time, only when the company gets an order. So let's say for study, I get an order on my website, and instead of having to produce all of those orders ahead of time and shipping them out when I hopefully get an order from a customer, I get the order from the customer, I send it to On Point Manufacturing, they make the product for me only after I've gotten the order and ship it out within 48 hours, which is pretty amazing, because if you've ever tried to make a garment in 48 hours, that's very, very fast. So this is a new future of manufacturing in America, I think. And so that's it for I think we're just on time here, so hopefully there's some good questions that I can get into things here. And I'm going to leave my contact information, so if ever you want to reach out to me, just take a screenshot of this and feel free to email me with questions. I'm always happy to answer questions from the next generation of sustainability practitioners. And I see a couple of questions coming through, so I'm going to stop screening. Okay, should I just start looking through the questions, Alyssa?
Yeah, I mean, I can read them out loud to you as well. So Vashti, I hope I'm pronouncing your names right. Are there any certifications students should get to be more involved in the sustainable fashion area? Is there prior knowledge they should have or can have to be on top of the issue? Also, what advice or tips do you have for students who want to get into fashion, sustainable fashion?
Yeah, so it's that's an excellent question. And it's really complicated landscape because you saw those 10 strategies that I put up. Not every brand is doing all of those. And actually it would be really impossible to try to do all of those things at all times. So brands tend to pick the things that are most important to them. And I always recommend that customers and students do the same thing. What's really important to you? Is it not buying anything synthetic, so plastic based? Is it maybe only wearing vegan approved clothing? Is it only buying things that are made in the United States? So these are all different issues. So which one resonates mostly with you? Which one is the most important? So I would definitely recommend going to the Mistra Future Fashion and reading about what they're doing and watching the little videos. It's only like a 30-second video each, so it's super quick. I'm gonna just plug it in to the chat box while I'm talking. And then deciding which one is important to you, and then also asking the brand what they're doing. Like, try to communicate with the brand, because brands are trying to be more communicative with students these days and answer questions, but the more questions they get, the more they're going to realize that people are paying attention and that you care about certain issues. So I think that's the best way to do it. And then the Fashion Revolution site is also full of a lot of information. As far as certifications, it gets very complicated. Even designers who work in manufacturing have very little knowledge of certifications. There are some that are recognizable, like GOTS, which is a global organic textile standard, or the recycled standard from Textile Exchange, but that's really not very publicized. So I would say it's more important to trust a brand based on how they communicate their message on social media, how they talk about what they're doing on the website. So if a brand just says we're 100% sustainable, but they don't tell you how, then I would start asking them some questions and trying to get some validation from them. But if they show you tours of their factory and you see videos of the workers and you see information on how much the workers are wages or how much they're making, you see the transportation issues on their website, then you know that the brand is actually trying to do something from a sustainability standpoint. I think one of the benefits of the younger generation is that you're very savvy about when someone is being truthful and doing things that they're saying that they're doing versus not backing up what they're doing with actual like expressions on social media. So trust your gut is the best thing I can say. And then start to follow some of these organizations like Fashion Revolution, because there's a lot of great information there.
Great. So I think Sarah and Arif had a pretty similar question related to the pandemic. So did it bring the work to a halt? How has it affected your work? Was there more or less being done?
Yeah, great question. So I'll answer for myself personally. I actually stopped producing during the pandemic, not because of the pandemic, but because I was starting to focus more on my consultancy work with other brands, and I wanted to spend some time doing that. And I was just getting sort of tired of producing and selling more and more products. So I wanted to take a break from that. So I did that. But then the industry as a whole was hit really hard, mostly because there were issues. In the same thing, you probably saw there were issues with getting PPE and masks and other things into the United States when we needed it. the fashion industry saw the same thing. So all the brands that were producing in the United States didn't have a problem because they were producing domestically, whereas the brands that were producing in India or China had real problems because they had trouble importing. And so that, I think, has woken up a lot of companies to the idea that they need to change the way that they produce. And some of that might be bringing jobs back to the United States and production back to the United States. Some of it might actually just be diversifying and producing a little bit all over the place to hedge their bets. So two things. I mean, obviously, a lot of big brands have been very affected by the pandemic, but a lot of the smaller brands that I work with have actually done quite well because people are starting to reevaluate their ethos and really shop their conscience and do a better job at putting their money behind what they believe in. And a lot of that tends to be sustainability.
That's great. So we have a question from Raina, which is, can you expand on your work with the CFDA? Do you see any differences in sustainable practices with household name luxury houses?
Yes, Raina, you did your homework. So the CFDA, for those of you who don't know, is the Council of Fashion Designers of America. They're an organization that helps support American designers and manufacturing. So I actually work with them through the latter part. So I Study as a brand was awarded the sustainability, oh my God, I'm going to forget the name of the prize, but it was the CFDA Lexus Fashion Initiative for Sustainability, I think the actual term. But I actually work with the CFDA now as a consultant to help their sustainability initiative and manufacturing. So I'm helping them on the other side of things.
And then she said, do you see any differences in sustainable practices with household name luxury houses?
Yes, it's been much slower for the luxury houses to adopt sustainability, but they're taking big steps now. Big groups like Kering, which owns used to own Stella McCartney, and a lot of big groups, LVMH, which owns Louis Vuitton. They're all starting to take sustainability more seriously, and because they're so big and make so much money, they can invest a lot more. A lot of those brands actually, because of the pandemic, looked internally and saw what wastes they had in their design studios and their factories, and started reusing that waste, which was really inspiring. I hope that they continue doing that even when the pandemic is over. I also hope the pandemic will be over soon. But I think, so a lot of them looked at old stock that they hadn't sold and found a way to rework it, which is what we call upcycling. They looked at materials that they had that were left over that they hadn't used, and they reused those. Kind of technically also called upcycling, which I know gets confusing because it's two different strategies. So a lot of them did that. And a lot of times, sustainability initiatives also make good financial sense, but most people tend to think about sustainability as being more expensive, especially in fashion, when it doesn't have to be. So hopefully they start to realize, at least the big luxury brands start to realize that it can make them money, just like it is for Eileen Fisher's remake program, versus costing them money.
Great. So we have only 2 minutes left, so I'm going to use this time to see, Tara, if you can talk a little bit about, for the students who are on here, if they are interested in getting into a fashion program after high school, what are their options in the city? And of course, you know, you mentioned in your own training, you did not have that much around sustainability. Are there any particular programs that have more emphasis on sustainable practices?
Yeah, so well, I mean, I presume you all know the big 3 fashion schools in New York, which would be FIT, of course, where I teach, so I'm partial there, Pratt and Parsons, and all 3 are starting to implement sustainability into the core of their fashion education as a response to students' needs. But I think a lot of that information is coming from internships. I also work with the Brooklyn Public Library to do a workshop on sustainability, because they have an accelerator incubator program for independent designers in New York. So they do that every year. Not sure what happened during the pandemic, but I presume it's going to come back next year. That's a great organization. The New York Times, the School of the New York Times actually has a fashion program that a friend of mine teaches and directs. That is actually quite good, and that's for younger students as well who are interested in just getting into fashion design, marketing, press, and understanding, but it's definitely formed under a sustainability initiative. And I would say volunteering or interning at companies that are already doing things. So Fab Scrap's a great organization. You can volunteer there as little or as much as you like. So that would be a really good place to start, because they are also connected with all the designers in New York City, so they can easily make contacts.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So we're at 4 o'clock. So I want to make sure no one has any last questions. If you do, you can drop them in the chat. We'll wait another minute or two. If you do have questions that you weren't able to ask, or if you'd like to be connected to any of the presenters after here, let me just buy an auto or yes. Presenters, are you okay with students contacting you via email? I know Kara Shooters, Tara, you're okay with that. Monica, hopefully as well. But if you are and you weren't able to ask any questions, my email is in the chat. It is just athomas@sbs.nyc.gov. You can email me directly and I can connect you back to any of the businesses that were on this panel. Myself and my team also work with hundreds of other businesses across the city. And so if there's any more general questions you have, we're happy to answer any of those things. I'm going to turn it over to Corinne just to make sure you guys know the logistics of this, but hopefully we will see some of you guys again in the upcoming months. As a reminder, we will be getting those dates out soon, again through Corinne, but we have a manufacturing and hopefully healthcare sector presentation coming up in March, and then at the end of April, there will be a distribution inside industrial, which will be with Uncommon Goods, as well as Southeast Asia Market, which is a food wholesaler and distributor in New York. So I'll turn over to Corinne. And thank you to all the presenters and the team for working on this. Appreciate it.
Yes, yes. Thank you to Tara, and thank you to Kara, and thank you to Michaela. This was an amazing opportunity to learn about your work. I know I've learned so much, and it's amazing how something like this can really transform your attitude towards the things you do on a day-to-day basis in terms of just how we function as consumers and our participation in recycling. It's really an effort on everyone's part. So just to close, I want to remind everyone, please, if you could just fill out that attendance form. You will be putting your email in there. So when I have your emails, I will send you a follow-up with the recording of this event. And I'll also send you all the information about the upcoming events that Alyssa mentioned. We have one at the end of March, and then we'll have another one at the end of April. We'll similarly have great presenters there, and so I encourage you to join. For the teachers here, just so you know, you can certainly use these events towards your students' work-based learning hours, so please be sure to track that. And if you have any questions about how to track that within the WBL grid, feel free to contact me. I think you all have my emails. And I just want to thank you all for joining today. We really appreciated your questions and your comments and your participation. So thanks again. Bye, everyone. Be well.
Bye, everyone.
Recycle.
Yes, recycle, reuse, reduce.
Reduce, most important. You could, if you want to stay on, Alyssa, you can. I don't know if you wanted to do a quick post-mortem.
Yeah. I think they're all hopping off.
Yeah.
Neil's still on here. Neil, do you want to join in this conversation?
Neil's got more questions.
I had so many questions for Tara, and I was like, oh God, I'm going to have to email her separately. Like, excuse me.
Her presentation was amazing. It was so good.
Really, really good. You know, I think a part of this.
Guys, I thought it was phenomenal. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Neil. I think a part of, you know, the work that we don't get to do in the pandemic is my team typically actually does our own site visits like once a month. And so we'll pick a different borough and then we'll see like 4 or 5 different companies. So the last one we did, we actually went to a cheesecake, not the Cheesecake Factory, but a cheesecake manufacturing facility.
Any cheesecake is good cheesecake. Yeah.
Yeah, we split a whole cheesecake. So things that we definitely miss, but we've got 2 stragglers on here. So I might
Yeah. Actually, I don't know Sarah, but Eileen is the teacher. Eileen, did you wanna say anything? You could unmute yourself. Oh, Sarah just left. Okay.
I put her in the waiting room because I
Oh, okay.
was probably a student who was still straggling. And, I'm not sure if Eileen just has the window open.
If Eileen, she might be having trouble unmuting. Anyway, that was great, Alyssa.
Yeah,
I thought that was awesome.
That was really great.
Thank you so much.
I'm hoping to get the other companies or the March one squared away tomorrow. So I wanted to, I guess if I stop recording and then we could cut it down.
Oh, yeah,